This is the Maida Initiative, conversation without compromise.
There's this parallel view in Middle Eastern cultures, is that you have this idea that humanity is essentially good at its core. Yet at the same time, I feel like you talk to people from any Arab country or any Middle Eastern country. I've talked to people from Saudi Arabia, from Pakistan, from Afghanistan, from Iraq, from Syria, who just see their people as the worst people. There's something uniquely bad about their own national character that's not wrong with everywhere else. So you've got people are good, but not my people.
Oh, interesting.
And that's something I run into all the time.
Yeah.
And it's a very different view than the biblical view on that.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I think what the kind of the biblical view to me is that we're selfish. And the moment we put ourselves in the middle of whatever we're doing, whether it's relationships or money or governance, we start, to use the word in another way, corrupting it, right? We start turning something that should be good into something that's not good. And it's our natural bent. It's how I move through life, right? And it truly is by God's grace that he course corrects for me and like pulls me out and refocuses me. But it's 100% what we do. And so that's why I think you see it, you don't just see it in the Iraqi government, right? You see it with the U.S. military guys that are working over there in charge of a lot of money. They're doing the same sorts of things. It's definitely present. Yeah.
So I think often what's the reaction to this kind of thing is people looking for some external source of where is this coming from? Is this Saddam Hussein's fault? Is this the U.S. government's fault?
Yeah.
Is this Iran's fault?
Yeah.
Whose fault is it?
Yeah.
Behind these things? And while you can certainly point to things people have done that are not good in all of these things, that Jesus doesn't let us start there.
Mm-hmm.
What he tells us to do in Matthew 5 is don't you look at the speck in your brother's eye while ignoring the plank in your own. First, you need to remove the plank from your own eye. Then you will see clearly to help your brother with his own eye. And I think the way the world works generally is we tend to think about, if you think about how people think about it in America, right? The problems are the Middle East first, the opposite party second, then my family, and then me.
Yeah.
And people want to deal with problems in that way. They want to think about something that's a long way away and completely disconnected from them to start worrying about. That's kind of the root of a lot of conspiracy theories.
Sure.
It's trying to rationalize why the world is bad to things that have nothing to do with you. And the Christian approach, and it's not to say there are never conspiracies, there certainly are, but the way we have to address the world as Christians is first, what do I have to deal with? Then what does my tribe have to deal with? Then maybe you can talk about what does my country need to deal with, and then maybe you can say something to other countries. But it has to start with working on yourself before you work on other people.
Yeah, there was you just made me think of a quote, so I just looked it up so I can say it correctly. G.K. Chesterton had a quote when the Times in London, I believe, had a headline of "What is wrong with the world," and so he wrote in, and his response was, "Dear sirs, I am," and he's saying that we can't just say what's wrong with the world. What is something we can point to? It's us. It's like we're the thing that's wrong. And he said, and it's me too, right? So yeah, I absolutely think it's interesting also when you talk about conspiracy theories and that the idea that like, did the U.S. create ISIS and is it like one of their things? It's what it's doing is it's putting a really a kind of simple answer on a really complex problem. And even the answer that I gave, like, oh, was it Nouri al-Maliki and his kind of how his processes within the government of separating people, probably not just him, right? There's deep-rooted things that are going much farther back, and there's oil and there's money and there's a lot of things going on that allowed it to be created. But it's giving a simple answer to a complex problem, which is generally not a good idea unless the simple answer is what you just talked about and what G.K. Chesterton said. It's like, if you really want what's going on here, what's the bad thing? It's us. That's probably as simple as it can get. But if you want to say, like, it's the United States and their interventionist policies, or it is Iran and using proxies within Iraq, you're probably being a bit too simplistic with regards to Iraqi culture and governance and conflict and money and all of those things going on there.
And to clarify something here, that I was talking to my friend from Turkey about this the other day, and he said that he thought just describing everything to sin nature is a simplistic way to look at a complex world. And I understand how we can see that. But
sure, yeah.
This is my answer to that is the way the Bible would see the world. Imagine it as a hospital with all different types of wards and all types of people sick with different types of things, with different types of injuries that are on. There's also a fire that's going to burn down the whole hospital if it's not put out. And that's what sin is like, is that there's this underlying thing we all have to deal with.
Yeah.
And as we deal with it, then there's all sorts of individual problems
Yes.
that we have to deal with as well.
Yeah.
But that's why it starts in you before it starts with everybody else, because there is this root issue that leads to lots of other things.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's not to say that Sunni sins and Shia sins and Christian sins, American sins, Iraqi sins are all the exact same sins.
Yeah.
We all have uniquely good things about us and uniquely bad things about
Absolutely.
us that are amplified.
Yeah, absolutely.